I have finally embraced the nature of chaos and given myself over to the ruinous powers. Attack my discordant legion. Blood for the blood god. Skulls for the skull crown. Equestria will burn. The princess shall kneel before me, and all shall feel the wrath of my totally impractical claw. Hold it! What the frig is this noise? I specifically said no noise marines. You give me a headache. Wait, what the? Well, crud. Even I would feel like an ass invading this. Go ahead, everyone. Enjoy the party. Yes, you can have some cake too. No, you can't have my slice as well. Because it's mine. Now stop breaking character. So right off the bat...
Oh, excuse me. So right off the bat, let's clarify what an archetype is. The textbook definition goes, the original pattern or model from which all things of the same kind are copied or on which they are based. A model or first form, prototype. And indeed, many people think of archetypes as a stock character, an umbrella term that often fulfills a role in a story. Yet there is a second definition. A collectively inherited unconscious idea, pattern of thought, image, etc., usually present in individual psyches. The universal presence that resides in every individual is called the collective unconscious. The characters we see in both classic mythology and modern-day fiction are all expressions of this unconsciousness. To Carl Jung and fellow psychologists, the archetypes we witness in stories across cultures weren't just stock assets. They were reflections upon people's patterns of behavior and symbols which affected us on a subconscious level. The archetype that Pinkie Pie represents goes by several titles: the comedian, the jester, the fool, and the joker. Yeah, that's why I went with the fool title. Batman and the Joker's supreme awesomeness has unintentionally shifted the ideas quite a bit. Though it is worth noting that Jungian psychologists have taken an interest in Joaquin Phoenix's presentation of the Joker, something that's worth some extra reading. However, while Phoenix's Joker is a tragic representation of society's failings, Pinkie is a more affirming presentation, a trait we often overlook because humor, by its nature, does not invite reflection. To quote Todd McGowan and his publication Only a Joke Can Save Us, when we confront tragedy, we tend to think about the nature of tragedy. When lovers fall in love, they often spend time pondering the nature of love itself. When we see death firsthand, this can prompt us to consider our own finitude or question death's ultimate significance. Part of the enjoyment of comedy, however, involves giving oneself over to the immediacy of the experience. Which is why I think Pinkie is often difficult to present and even harder to understand. Our culture has played comedic sidekicks to the point where they're more of a background noise than anything else. Yet Pinkie has been a standout character for when her humor does more than accomplish a laugh. How does Pinkie go about bringing humor to a show that's already supposed to be lighthearted and kid-friendly? Again, I look to McGowan's writing. In a comedy, two elements that seem unrelated to each other become necessarily connected, and the unlikely nature of this connection produces the comic effect. He goes on to list that the connection comes down to the bond between excess and lack. Let's consider Cerberus's attack on Ponyville. In the midst of an excess of fear, we encounter one who is lacking.
Okay, every pony, follow my lead!
Until she has more in excess of fear than anyone else. Same episode, we witnessed Twilight's excessive drive versus Pinkie's more reasoned lack of panic.
So I only had one other choice. Monitor everything. Makes sense to me.
Which brings us to one of the core traits of the Fool. They make for fantastic sidekicks to protagonists because of their ability to live in the moment. Very rarely do we witness Pinkie expressing anxiety over what happens next. Her main goal isn't to necessarily solve a problem. Rather, the problems either confront her or someone for whom she cares. This is why Pinkie's character is so versatile. While ponies like Rarity, Applejack, or Fluttershy might only show their best against a specific cast, Pinkie acts so present that she can play off any individual. In fact, the more lost a character seems, the better Pinkie can shine. Which leads us to a very surprising fact about the Fool. It is one of the most spiritually awakened archetypes witnessed. The Fool is able to act in the moment, embracing whatever is around them. The paradoxes and conflicts of the world don't affect them. Because of this, the Fool often serves a purpose that one can easily overlook. They help state the obvious.
Why,
in Equestria would you want to avoid such a gorgeous castle?
Big, tall ceilings that make you feel tiny. Shiny new floors that are cold to the touch. And it even has long, empty hallways.
Consider for a moment that in that scene, Twilight was having trouble expressing her thoughts to her friends. Without even having to be asked, Pinkie stated everything about the castle that could be intimidating, and in doing so became Twilight's proponent. And let's not forget that Pinkie was actually a better researcher than Twilight, who can miss the simple details while trying to tackle the bigger picture.
The Elements of Harmony, a reference guide. How did you find that? It was under E.
And because of this deceptively simple outlook, they can also act as the main hero's conscience.
Queen was going to say yes. We did what you told us, and that's what made her realize we were ponies worth saving. It's all on me. I'm the one Tempest wants. I'm the last princess. You're also the only one who doesn't trust her friends. I'm so sorry. I was wrong to... I'm sorry, too.
Thinking back on it, how fitting that the first pony Twilight encountered in Ponyville, with her complete lack of desire to socialize, was the excessively emotive Pinkie Pie.
Hello? Well, that was interesting, all right.
Another facet of the Fool is not worrying about how others view them. Pinkie has never been one to shy away from being expressive in public, though that's both a strength and a weakness. Because she's not afraid of how others will view her, Pinkie can be the most expressive and bring some vitality into a dull or stagnant situation. However, she can also completely misread the room and make a mess of things. She did both with Princess Celestia.
Woohoo! Cupcakes, candies, and pies all night! You gonna eat that?
Let's unpack this. Here's Celestia doing her best to get ponies to lighten up and treat her with less intimidated respect.
Gotcha.
Celestia is channeling a bit of her own Fool here, and Pinkie is the only pony who can approach her without hesitation. Yet by being so flippant, she's putting the cakes and Ponyville at risk of a scandal. And this is where we get into the times where Pinkie's humor wasn't just unwelcome, it was damaging. Back when I reviewed Philly Vanilli, fellow fans pointed out that Pinkie's speech to Fluttershy was instructive, that we, the audience, got a play-by-play description of what Fluttershy fears.
A shining star! With every pony staring at you, judging you, jealously noting how they could be way better than you. And then, when you choke, they'll turn on you, becoming a seething, angry mob, and you'll be horribly humiliated, never able to show your face in Ponyville again!
But it's difficult to appreciate that service when she's driving Fluttershy to tears. By a similar notion, it might be funny to see Pinkie making Cranky uncomfortable. But as her intrusions get worse, and even chasing him to apologize goes too far, we see the downside of the Fool's jovial nature. If there's one word that separates Pinkie's best from her worst, it would be awareness. For an example, let's compare a scene from Applebuck season.
It was a mishap with some of the baked goods.
No, not baked goods. Baked bads.
In this case, Pinkie has painfully high awareness of Applejack's disastrous creation. And I don't feel depressed because she's able to assert a correction on the terms, showing she has at least some control over the situation. Now compare that to when she creates strawberry cinnamon cilantro cupcakes.
That strangely sickening flavor combination sounds just as bad as it tastes. Ugh.
And yet she keeps eating them and admits that she's even given another pony food poisoning.
The post pony was going to deliver it, but after a strawberry cinnamon cilantro cupcake, he was feeling kinda queasy.
One might find it funny, but because that postal pony is so sick he can't even speak for himself, I find it rather troubling. This is abysmally low awareness of both her actions and their consequences. Similar scenes that show dangerous low awareness include her damage with the Yvidophone and her continual intrusions into Maud and Starlight's bonding. Like any fool, Pinkie can be blinded by her own enthusiasm, and in that blindness there is a risk of causing others emotional, even physical harm. The Yvidophone was particularly frustrating because it was the one time a material possession seemed to take priority over her friends.
You mean the thing I love more than anything else in Equestria? My sun, my moon, my stars, my everything?
Yeah, she never touched that thing again for the rest of the series. And I hear you say, Silver, you pontificating puffin. What about her fixation with sweets? Is that not materialistic as well? In a sense it is, but while the Yvidophone was her own personal idol, her fixation with sugar speaks to another of the Fool's darker aspects. Addiction.
Pinkie Pie is an out-of-control party animal. What? It's true! I do have a problem!
This is an example of the fool's passive shadow, which I call the addict. In seeking enjoyment in the moment, an addict looks to consume any source of pleasure, heedless of consequence. One might think that personal health would involve slaying this shadow, but one aspect of recognizing the addict's influence is that we can find both the strength and focus to break an addiction. Mental health isn't about destroying aspects of yourself. It's taking the unconscious influences and bringing them into the light of awareness. Because once we're aware of these negative influences, we can tap into their strengths while avoiding the self-destructive aspects. Pinkie did this back in Too Many Pinkie Pies.
Pick something really hard for a Pinkie to do, something not fun at all. Any Pinkie that can't do it goes back into the pond, but whoever wants to stay the most, that must be the real Pinkie.
That whole mess started with Pinkie focusing so much on having fun and avoiding the fool's eternal opponent, boredom. Yet by recognizing her own addictive nature, she was able to power through and succeed where every impulse-driven imposter failed, and gave us some pretty pink nightmare fuel. The aggressive shadow of the fool is often called the Trickster, a form well represented by Discord, and that topic will require a video all its own, so I'll just say this. The Trickster may note the hypocrisies, inconsistencies, or failing of a situation just as the fool does. But the Trickster's goal is not to transform people's perceptions, but instead use this insight to achieve a personal goal. This goal may be unintentionally beneficial, but it often comes at a steep price for either the Trickster or the people who appear to benefit. Another downside of the fool's sense of humor is that they're often unwilling to confront their own negative feelings. Even harder to express such feelings to others. They're supposed to be the life of the party, the go-to comedian. They have to be funny because if not them, then who? Thus we have scenes of Pinkie either denying her inner conflict or doing everything in her power to hide it.
It's what I do when I'm not nervous!
And here I thought Applejack was the worst liar. Just as awareness can set Pinkie's strongest and weakest moments, I think you could summarize an enjoyable Pinkie Pie episode from a damaging one with a single sentence. This story showed Pinkie at her worst without giving her a chance to correct it. Note that this has nothing to do with Pinkie Pie being funny or not. Despite the emphasis on comedy, humor is the fool's tool. It's a means to alter one's perception and perhaps invoke new thought, because that's what the fool does. Combining spontaneity and resourcefulness, Pinkie often is able to redefine a situation and consider alternate paths. There's often a mistake with comedic characters to present them as being oblivious to reality. Instead, a fool sees the same situation from a different perspective. The map missions were a prime example, as Pinkie wondered about retrieving the lost idol of Boreas.
It's sad what happened to your town, King, but Rainbow Dash can't be right. This can't all be because of a missing hunk of gold.
You're right, Pinkie! And you've got amazing hair!
And again with finding a purpose on her mission with Rarity to Canterlot.
No, Rarity, you don't find a friendship problem, it finds you. We just need to go with the flow, and eventually, kablam! We get friendship problem right between the eyes. Rarity, I think that friendship problem just kablammed us right between the eyes.
And this ability comes into play even when she makes a mess of things. Yes, she displayed a very low awareness with Cranky and did a lot of damage. But look at what happened when she became aware of Cranky, his belongings, and her own observations in Ponyville.
Well, when you were talking about your souvenirs, you said something about trying to find a special friend. In your scrapbook, there was a flower, an old ticket, and a menu from the Grand Galloping Gala. And I knew I recognized all these things. I put 2 and 2 and 2 together, and it added up to Matilda.
She was very possessive of Maud and unwilling to accept Mudbriar, who in many ways represents the boredom that Pinkie tries to resist. But in a moment of doubt, she knew where to go for help.
I came home because you two know her better than any pony. What am I missing?
A very real part of the fool's ability to act is a trust in the process, even if the outcome is unknown. Limestone got Pinkie's thoughts set straight, helping her shake off the possessiveness holding her back. It wasn't what Pinkie wanted, but because she trusted her sister, she heard what she needed. And because of that, she was able to both honor her sister's desire for privacy while still giving Ponyville's residents a chance to celebrate her birthday. How many could accomplish such a fusion? And there's always that song that really encapsulates Pinkie's greatest strengths.
And maybe you feel sad, but Pinkie will be there to show you that it isn't that bad.
If one can tap into the fool's positive aspects, it can lead not only to viewing a situation in a new light, but one can also accomplish emotional healing or alleviate a situation. And that's what makes us able to connect with certain characters who embody the fool. It's not just humor. There are plenty of examples of characters who were just thrown in to make jokes.
By the powers invested in me by this parish, I hereby do commandeer this vehicle and all those persons within.
You can't eat me! I've got eczema! I've got warts! I've had gonorrhea! Eat thread! He works out!
Now that's rude.
And let's be fair, even a character added for such shallow reasons can help point out a hypocrisy in the modern system or the lead character's actions.
The law doesn't make mistakes.
Really? Then how do you explain what happened to you?
Mr. I am the law.
Can't.
But did that change the lead character's outlook? Not that I can tell.
I taught him everything he knows.
That's why these characters lose the human connection associated with an archetype, and instead become a trope, a check mark on a list, a voice box for banter but no substance. There are episodes where Pinkie suffers the same. It's a very tempting issue with comedic characters. But when Pinkie Pie is given the chance to not only make a joke, but to act or inspire change in others, we get to see a layer that runs deeper than the humor, a core that enriches the character while speaking to something within ourselves. We don't have to be as cartoonish as Pinkie Pie, but practicing a little what the hell attitude, being resourceful, and accepting outcomes rather than trying to dictate is something worth considering. There will be plenty of characters who are just there to make a joke and be forgotten.
I'm eating!
But Pinkie Pie did way more than that, and she's going to be remembered for a long time. Now, before I go, allow me to share my favorite Pinkie Pie moment in the series. I don't think you'll be able to anticipate it, but take a moment and guess based on everything I've said. Ready? Here it is.
A message for Princess Twilight.
A letter from Ponyville, I presume?
Able to give her friend a surprise, lighten the mood, and doesn't even have to be on screen to do it. That is part of the awesomeness that is Pinkie Pie, the Fool. If I managed to catch you by surprise, hit that thumbs up. If you were totally able to call my favorite scene, let me know with a thumbs down. I'm Silver.
Bombs for the pink one! Scones for the Stone Throne! Party Legion, advance!
Oh jeez, oh no, oh god, I'm being trampled again. Why does this happen every time I try to take over the world? Oh, the heretics have gone full heretical. It's heraldception. The irony is as heavy as their armor. Oh, the traitor legions have turned double traitorous. In hindsight, that seems rather obvious. Mantine, you bloody traitor. I'm Silver-Quill. Thanks for watching. Bleh.